Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name's Steven, and if you told me a year ago that one single piece of paper would be the reason my marriage collapsed, I would have laughed in your face. Yet, looking back now, that's exactly how everything unraveled. It all started one weekend when I was cleaning our room and came across a folded note tucked inside my wife's bag. What it said, and more importantly, who it was meant for, was where my nightmare began. At that moment, I had no idea that piece of paper would become the thread that would slowly tear apart the life I thought we built together. The life I believed would last forever. It's still hard to wrap my head around. Before that day, things seemed good. We'd been married for years, and while we had our share of small ups and downs, I never imagined something could break us so completely. But before I tell you how it all came crashing down, let me take you back to the beginning, to how Valeria and I even ended up together. Truthfully, I never saw myself marrying someone like her. She wasn't what I pictured when I thought about my future partner. It was actually our mothers who introduced us. They were old friends who were convinced we'd be perfect for each other. I still remember rolling my eyes when my mom first suggested it. It felt forced, like two puzzle pieces being jammed together just because someone thought they might fit. But out of respect, I agreed to give it a chance. Our first date was fine. We talked politely, but there was no magical spark. No fireworks. We were just two people trying to be nice. But a few dates later, something shifted. That awkwardness began to fade, and we started to feel more comfortable around each other. By the third or fourth outing, we were laughing, connecting. She told me she wanted to keep working after marriage, and that she absolutely loved kids. That stuck with me. I respected it. I wanted children too, and I never saw an issue with having a working wife. We didn't date long. Our parents were thrilled from the start, seeing our growing connection as proof that we were right for each other. Before long, wedding plans were underway. I wouldn't say I felt pressured, but the momentum made it easy to just go along with it. The early days of our marriage felt smooth, comfortable, even peaceful. We did what happy couples do. We decided to wait before having kids and focus on building a routine together. Friday nights meant picking a movie and curling up on the couch. Mornings were coffee and quiet conversation. Weekends were for errands, grocery runs, little adventures. It all sounds so ordinary, and maybe it was, but it made me happy. We handled disagreements calmly, tried not to let small issues grow, and had an unspoken rule: no involving our parents in our problems. It felt like we had a solid foundation. Friends would comment on how well we got along, saying things like, "You two make it look easy." That always felt good. It made me believe we were unshakable. But stability can be deceiving. You think because you've made it through a few storms that you're safe, that nothing can touch you. I see now how naive that was. That belief gave me a false sense of security, one that blinded me to the danger creeping in. There were things she was hiding from me, things I never could have imagined. And when I finally discovered them, it shattered everything. But that comes later. For now, just know everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. Things began to shift when we decided to finally try for a baby. I truly believed we were in a good place. So when we said, "Let's start a family," I never imagined that would be the turning point where everything started to unravel. As we tried to conceive, Valeria's behavior started to change. She began coming home later, sometimes after dinner, saying she was helping a new colleague adjust at work. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. But what hurt wasn't just the time she spent away. It was the way she started pulling away from me emotionally and physically. She stopped initiating intimacy. And when I tried to get close, she gently pushed me away with a tired excuse. "I'm exhausted," or "I'm not in the mood." At first, I gave her space. But as time passed, it became painfully clear this wasn't just stress or exhaustion. Something deeper was going on. We started fighting more, sometimes over the smallest things. Petty arguments that never used a matter suddenly turned into real conflicts. I tried talking to her, telling her how I felt, but every time I did, she'd get defensive. And honestly, that hurt worse than her silence. Eventually, I stopped trying to win arguments. Being right didn't matter anymore. What mattered was saving our marriage, and it felt like it was slipping through my hands. So I changed my approach. I stopped yelling, stopped pointing out every inconsistency. I tried to fix things quietly instead. I planned a date night, suggested one of her favorite restaurants, made an effort to start conversations, listened more than I spoke. And for a while, it seemed to work. The fighting slowed down. Things felt calmer. But under the surface, nothing really changed. The distance between us was still there, hidden like a crack behind fresh paint. We were quieter, but we weren't happier. It felt like putting a bandage on a wound that needed surgery. And then came the day that changed everything. One Saturday afternoon, Valeria went out with friends, and I decided to tidy up the house. I started with the bedroom, folding laundry, making the bed, clearing the clutter. That's when I noticed her work bag sitting near the dresser. At first, I didn't think twice. But as I kept cleaning, I found myself glancing at it again. Finally, I opened it. I didn't even know what I was looking for, maybe nothing. But then, in one of the small pockets, I found a folded sheet of paper. At first, I thought it was a receipt. But the second I unfolded it and started reading, my stomach dropped. It was a romantic note. Playful, flirty, emotional, and it wasn't meant for me. These weren't just suggestive words. They were personal, intimate. Whoever it was for, she clearly had a connection with him. And I wasn't that man. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding that note, trying to breathe through the wave of emotions crashing over me. It's one thing to fear your partner is drifting away. It's another thing entirely to hold proof in your hands. I wanted to call her right then and demand answers, but I stopped myself. I told myself to wait. That night, she came home late, a little unsteady, shoes in her hand. She climbed into bed and fell asleep immediately. I just lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding, the note tucked under my pillow like a cursed reminder. The next morning, she was all smiles, making coffee, talking about how much fun she'd had, asking if I wanted brunch. I watched her like she was a stranger. When the moment felt right, I asked her about the note. Calmly, who was it for? Her smile vanished. She said she didn't know what I was talking about. I told her exactly where I'd found it, exactly what it said. That's when the wall went up. She got defensive, accusing me of snooping. She claimed it was just a joke between colleagues, but she wouldn't look me in the eye. And right then I knew something was going on. I didn't press further. Arguing wasn't going to get me anywhere. So I went quiet, and I started watching. If she wasn't going to tell me the truth, I was going to find it myself. I reached out to someone I knew who worked with her. At first, I played it casual, but eventually, I asked directly if the man's name I'd seen on the note worked there. The answer was yes. And then came the blow that knocked the air out of my chest. The person told me, almost casually, that everyone in the office had been joking about Valeria and this guy, that they were basically known as the office couple. Hearing that was like being punched in the stomach. The signs had been there all along, but I had ignored them, or maybe I just didn't want to believe them. But I still needed undeniable proof. So I waited. Days went by until finally one night I got my chance. She fell asleep on the couch, phone still in her hand. Carefully, I unlocked it and went straight to her messages. I typed his name into the search bar, and there it was, message after message, each one twisting the knife deeper. But what finally broke me was one recent message she sent him. My husband seemed suspicious after finding the note. I wrote you. That was it. There was no denying it anymore. I took screenshots of everything, saving them like evidence, because I knew if I confronted her, she'd try to spin it back on me. I sat there for a long time that night, staring at the wall, realizing this was the end. When she woke up, I showed her the screenshots. I didn't yell. I didn't even say much. Her face went pale. Then came the shouting, the accusations. Why are you going through my things? You've never trusted me. But I didn't argue. What was the point? The truth was right there between us, undeniable. That night, I packed a small bag. She was still shouting as I zipped it shut. I didn't tell her where I was going or for how long. All the little moments I'd ignored suddenly made sense, one by one, like falling dominoes. A few days later, her mom called. She sounded quiet, tired. She said she knew what had happened. I didn't need to explain. I could tell she already knew the truth. I won't make excuses for her, she said. Even her own mother couldn't defend her. Weeks passed. I stayed at a hotel, trying to clear my head. Eventually, I filed for divorce. It wasn't impulsive. I thought long and hard about it. There were moments I almost convinced myself to give her another chance. But then I remembered how she'd looked me in the eye and lied. And I knew what I had to do. When I finally returned to the house to collect my things, she was there. The moment she saw me, she broke down. She begged me to go to therapy with her, promised she'd do anything to fix things. She said she missed me, that the house felt empty without me. But I didn't give in. I told her calmly it was over. No amount of therapy could rebuild the trust she had destroyed. And I meant every word. Months later, the divorce was finalized. Just like that, a marriage that once felt so full of promise was over. But strangely, the relationship between our families didn't fall apart. My mom still spoke to hers sometimes. No one took sides. They just accepted what happened and moved on. Life after the divorce didn't magically get better overnight. I had to start over, piece by piece, figuring out what came next. And in that process, I learned some hard lessons. Trust isn't automatic. It has to be earned every single day in the small things. And those subtle changes in someone's behavior, they mean something. When she stopped initiating affection, when she came home late, when she avoided my eyes, I saw the signs. I just didn't want to admit what they meant. If there's one thing I wish I'd learned earlier, it's this. Your gut isn't your enemy. If something feels off, it usually is. Don't silence that voice just because you don't want it to be true. Don't let fear or nostalgia trap you in a situation where you're slowly being broken down piece by piece. I stayed longer than I should have because I was holding on to who she used to be. But loving the memory of someone isn't enough reason to let them keep hurting you. So here I am, not bitter, still believing in love and partnership. But I'll never again trade my peace for someone else's secrecy. And now I want to hear from you. If you were in my place and you found a love note in your spouse's bag that led to uncovering the truth, what would you do? Would you stay and fight or walk away? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and your stories might help someone else who's living through the same pain.